can encompass countless different subjects. But for Ashley and the Kentucky Fried Chicken team, they are innovating their entire digital marketing ecosystem to be more nimble, to use data from across their global footprint to unearth insights that are then being turned around to drive increased customer satisfaction and overall business growth. So I'm just so excited to be talking to Ashley today. We touched base earlier this week, and it was a really interesting conversation to pick her brain. So I'm really excited to have her share a lot of those insights with you guys here today. And so welcome, Ashley. Hello.
Colin, hi, good to see you again.
Yes, good to see you as well. I guess let's just get down to it, because we're not going to have enough time to cover all the amazing stuff that you can share with the group. And so I'll just start by saying you've built a truly amazing career at blue chip brands. Anyone who wants to take a little spin through her LinkedIn profile will be very impressed. You've worked across retail, you've worked across CPG, you've worked across QSR, and you've always had an eye towards technology and innovation. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your role and your team at Kentucky Fried Chicken right now, and how you guys are and how you personally, I guess, are tapping into your previous experience to build a COE?
Sure. So a little background on KFC. So we're a very global brand. We're one of the largest QSRs in the world, and we are in over 145 countries, over 26,000 restaurants, and 80% or more of our business is outside of the U.S. So we have a global center of excellence in Plano, Texas, where Pizza Hut is headquartered. So I saw, David and Lindsay were here earlier. They're down the hall. We have some young folks here. And really our job at the Global Center of Excellence is to identify best practices and really amazing work that's happening in all of our markets around the globe, and connect the dots and share those best practices to additional markets to help us all accelerate much faster. My role in particular as leading digital customer experience is across things like e-commerce, launching web and app solutions, CRM and loyalty and what that looks like for us globally, as well as performance marketing, and most recently data centralization and usage. So it's a large remit, but the good thing about our organization is we're very collaborative, and I don't have to do it alone, because I have counterparts in 145 countries to work with me to help make, and they're the ones that actually make it all happen. So using my background, what drew me to this role was coming from Amazon and Starbucks. QSR is just so new in this space, and I joined in 2019 before COVID, and I knew that there was a huge opportunity, not just with KFC, but with QSR in general, to leverage what I had learned at my past employment to make a difference and make an impact, and that was really exciting for me.
That's awesome. And yes, your remit is huge. I don't envy the task in front of you for trying to organize your day and trying to get all those things done. I think something you touched on really early, and probably for all of us in the industry, we intuitively know that KFC is a global brand, but until you're really able to share how big your guys' footprint is outside of the United States, it really doesn't hit home. And so that's a really unique component to your restaurant compared to probably almost anyone else. And so, you as the COE for global strategy, you need to be cognizant that one size does not fit all. Yeah. How do you try to balance the innovation needs of the brand from an overarching perspective, while at the same time trying to tailor your POV to the nuances of each individual market?
Great question. I would say it really comes in twofold. One is scale and speed. So we look for partners or solutions that have scale. If it doesn't have scale beyond one market, then let that market kind of lead the charge. It's just not under my remit. My remit is to find innovation and opportunities that have scale across the globe. However, we have to do that, to your point, within some sort of boundaries or considerations. So we use a philosophy that we call freedom within a framework, where we have kind of these frameworks of solutions that, in general, the basic principles and guidelines will meet all of our customers' needs around the globe, but there is some freedom within that because we want to ensure that we're empowering our markets around the globe to be able to tailor execution to their local needs, their local business needs, but more importantly, their local customer needs. And because one of the powerful things about our brand compared to a lot of our competitors is that we operate in a very decentralized way, but that allows each of our markets to be able to tailor the brand and fit the brand into the local culture. So it feels like a local brand, even though we are large, because we actually have local teams on the ground that are in charge of doing that. So it's a fine balance that we're constantly trying to kind of walk the line with, but so far we've been successful at doing that. But it always, as digital and technology increasingly becomes a priority, that line gets harder and harder. But we also find that when it comes to technology in particular, a lot of the needs and the customer behavior is the same. So in terms of scale, it's how do we find solutions that we can leverage our scale to actually be able to enable speed to market much faster.
Scale and speed, I imagine, is a theme that's going to come up multiple times during our conversation today. But I was just thinking in my head about what an interesting opportunity it is to have all these local markets that can operate in nimble fashion. Mm-hmm. And you could launch pilots in these different areas and take those learnings really quickly and apply them across the globe. And I think that's going to come up today too. So let's talk about insights. The topic of the event today is marketing innovation, but one of your primary focuses at KFC has been data, measurement, optimization, and of course, the holy grail, insights. I'll say, I don't think any of us have heard any brand over the last couple of years not talk about the value of first-party data, not talk about the value of insights. But not everyone knows how to actually deploy those mechanisms for their own enterprise. And so, when you kind of look ahead, you started in 2019, you've come a long way till today. What is the opportunity at KFC and for the QSR category as a whole as it relates to innovating within the measurement, insights, and optimization space?
Oh gosh, there's so much opportunity. I mean, we're just kind of, I think from an industry perspective, right? COVID accelerated our digital transformation. What we thought was going to take us, 5 to 10 years to achieve, we had to figure out how to achieve in one. But with that, at KFC, I think, in the last earnings call, you would have heard that we have in the past, 2 years doubled our transactions that are coming from digital. So globally, we're at over 40% of our transactions coming from digital now. And, but with that speed also comes an influx of data that, not to be candid, we're not always prepared to use and to leverage. So I think that is the big challenge underway. And in talking, to some of my counterparts and other brands as well, I think as an industry, that's a challenge that we're prepared with of like, oh my gosh, we have all of these customers. Do we have our CRM set up properly? Do we have the right journeys in place to be able to welcome them to the brand and migrate them through their journey with us? But then also, how are we gaining insights about their behavior to improve their experience with us? And so there's so much tremendous opportunity. And I think at KFC, we have a unique advantage in being so global that we have markets that have been in this space for a long time. So our team in the Middle East, they've been doing delivery long before COVID, and they're really, experts at executing. Our team in Australia has been doing collect for, over 5 years, and we can learn from them. And so what we've been able to do is identify those learnings. And then, when COVID happened, frankly, we reached out to, our friends and, in Asia and then in Italy that we're kind of on that first wave of it. And hey, what can we learn from you so we can be prepared to ensure that our customers are safe and to, ensure that we're doing right by our team members. And so, I think as we start to look to centralize our data and start to look at the holistic picture, being able to benchmark KPIs around the globe based on different maturity levels, being able to identify similar segments and test in one market and then scale to an additional market will enable us to move a lot faster. And then I think, being able to, take that, look at the data from a hindsight perspective to be able to get insights, but then out from a forward perspective to start to do things like predictive analytics and advanced analytics, AI, machine learning, and be able to leverage, a larger data set than just, one individual country is a unique advantage that we have that I think we just haven't tapped yet, but I think it's going to fuel exponential growth in the future.
That's amazing. And two themes I already heard you talk about today, but it was, every market is different and nuanced. You mentioned the Middle East has been doing delivery now for some time. And then, of course, taking learnings from one area and applying it to another using benchmarks, things like that. As COVID really accelerated this digital transformation shift, and you were able to look at your Middle East markets and see how delivery worked there, learn from mistakes that have been made potentially in the past, how effective was it in helping you guys scale up here in the United States?
I mean, extremely effective. I think, in the U.S., because we were, frankly, one of the last markets to really be hit with the pandemic, being able to kind of have we had this crisis team that just was in charge of helping all of our markets around the globe prepare our infrastructure, prepare our teammates. So we, as the center of excellence, our responsibility is to take those learnings, quickly put those into playbooks, and then help the additional markets execute. So I think in terms of being able to be more prepared in the U.S., we fared, I think, a little bit better than maybe some other brands that didn't have the advantage of learning from other countries. But then I also think, we have an amazing team in the U.S. that has taken that and then catapulted forward. So their ability to then, advance and then be a pilot in other areas of our business for markets overseas to learn from is there too. So we've been very fortunate.
That's amazing. And you mentioned just the incredible growth within your digital footprint. You said now in your most recent earnings report, KFC is up to 40% plus within the digital channel. What was it before COVID? Just out of curiosity.
Less than half of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot accomplished in a really short amount of time. Congratulations to you and the team. That's a nice transition into our next kind of set of questions. And believe me, I could pick your brain all day on the details of KFC, but during our discussion, what really stood out to me is just the actual process of transformation. And in this case, digital transformation. A lot of companies say they want to innovate. A lot of companies are putting some resources against that, but to alter ingrained processes, an ingrained way of doing things to create something new is probably one of the toughest things an individual can do, let alone a massive organization. And so KFC has invested really heavily in this area, and you guys have adopted an Agile framework across your organization. What are the fundamental focus areas of Agile for KFC and why?
Yeah, I mean, I think we historically, just like other QSRs and a lot of brands, frankly, we've been a very traditional brand of, hey, we're going to build a campaign, we're going to launch this big campaign, we're going to measure success and then move on to the next campaign. But as we start to become, to really become a modern brand and become modern innovators, we had to adopt a different mindset and a different way of working. And I think, earlier this morning, you heard the 7-Eleven team talk about how structure yields success. And that's kind of really what fueled our process last year to say, hey, if we're going to be a digital company and we are going to be, leaders in the digital space, we have to start thinking differently about our business and about our processes. And so we started piloting this kind of agile way of doing digital marketing. And what that means really for us is, first and foremost, let's have a focus and have it be all about driving digital transactions. Let's, number two, identify what processes we need to put in place to be able to move faster, make quick decisions, and be nimble. And then three, as we start to learn that, what kind of gaps do we have in terms of people, talent, capabilities, and even partners that we need to fill? And then four, what kind of mindset shift does that require from us? And I think the mindset shift has been the most transformative. The processes, people, partners, that is all gonna, will flow out of a mindset shift to being willingness to try things and experiment and fail, having a test and learn mindset, being iterative and adaptive to campaign launches and to product launches, as opposed to thinking it has to be perfect right out of the gate. So, it's been a wild ride. It's been extremely transformative. We're still kind of in the transition, but it has really helped us truly start to operate as a modern brand and as modern marketers.
That's fantastic. You mentioned when we were talking earlier that Agile, that framework, is traditionally applied to product and engineering orgs. So it's not necessarily something that's been adopted outside of there heavily, and certainly not within marketing organizations, which, to your point, many times are very, very traditional. And so your call out of the mindset shift being the most important thing, I think is something we can all apply to our own jobs, our own companies, and our own roles. But I think we all know transition in general is tough. And so what were the biggest challenges you faced as you personally and then your team embarked on kind of rethinking your digital marketing practices? Where was the friction, and how did you break through that?
I think the first point of friction is just having the focus and the time and the resources to actually kind of to focus on this, because as anyone probably can attest to, the past year and a half has been really busy. Things are constantly changing, and we have day jobs, right? We can't just dedicate 100% to like learning Agile. So how to fit it in while maintaining the business on a day-to-day basis, I think, was the first challenge. And then, I think the other challenge that we have and that we're still in the middle of is we have different team structures around the globe. So as I mentioned earlier, we're very decentralized. We have local teams that run the business, and that allows us to be relevant within each country's culture. But that also means in some markets, we have really big teams that could, a little bit more easily hire and change their organizations, around this type of thinking and operating. But then we also have smaller countries that only have one person doing all of digital marketing or plus additional jobs. So how do we start to take this, the mindset and the process of, agile and quick decision making and testing and learning, but how does that look for, let's say like in Italy or, one of our smaller markets that, don't, they don't have as many stores, they don't have as many resources. And so that's kind of what we're in the process of doing right now, is figuring out how to ensure that all markets can take advantage of the revenue growth that we're seeing from this process, no matter their structure.
And would you say that, did COVID make this more difficult? Did it change this process at all? How did that affect the overall trajectory?
I would say it made it more important because there was, we didn't have a lot of focus on digital marketing prior to COVID, because honestly, we didn't have a lot of markets with web and app solutions. So driving digital transactions wasn't a priority. Now, since we've accelerated our growth in getting access to KFC through digital platforms around the globe, now there's a need for it in our business. So, I think it helped, the transformation to just become increasingly important of like, hey, if we're going to have these, modern ways of accessing the brand, we need to up level our skill sets in CRM and performance marketing and UX UI optimization. We need to be best in class at doing that so that we can ensure that we're continuously adapting to changing and evolving customer behavior and driving growth, with our business, so that by expanding and improving on those customer experiences.
Amazing. See, I'm doing a time check already, and I'm like, I knew it. We're not going to have enough time to go over all the questions, and I want to make sure we have a moment to get to the Q&A from the group as well. So I'll ask you one more question now, and then we'll get to the feedback from those that are tuning in. But probably one of the best outcomes of increased digital transactions is the data that comes off of that and what you can do with that information. And really, for brands across all different types of advertiser categories, first-party data has emerged as really one of the best defenses to the changes that are happening outside in our industry and the fuel that can help your business grow. In fact, I think a very overused term is data is the new oil. And yet, not every brand knows necessarily what to do with the information once they have it. And really, most importantly, you covered this earlier as well, once it's operationalized. And so, what are the most pressing use cases that you guys at KFC are exploring with these increased data assets, with these increased insights from across the globe, which is now significantly more digitized than it was prior to COVID?
Yeah, I would say a couple. One, we're still learning, just like everyone, we're still trying to figure out, hey, what do we do with all this data? How do we make sure we have access to the right KPIs? So having the right partnerships with resources that can ensure that we have a holistic picture of our customer behavior on all of our channels, the right attribution, et cetera. But then also this is a priority for Yum as well. So they've made acquisitions and purchases of Quantum and of Dragontail Systems. And so we're kind of bringing experts into the fold of TikTok, which is a Israeli company that is, experts in, the e-commerce space and chat ordering, et cetera. And so that we're bringing people into the fold that have history of doing this and bringing them into the Yum family so that we can adopt and adapt a lot faster. So things like media mix modeling, calendar optimization. We have really amazing now data scientists and analytics teams within the Yum family that we're able to leverage that didn't exist a year ago. And so that will enable us to move a lot faster.
That's amazing. One of the things I've appreciated about the increased resources a lot of these companies are getting when it comes to data science and insights and things like that is you can ask these questions, and now there's people and teams that can help you answer them. There's these things that intuitively we might have known for a long time or thought, and now you can comb through the information and really generate insights, which is amazing. So I'll transition here to a question from the group. And this person's asking, from a very high level, what does great look like to you in terms of empowering your global markets in the experience space within the next 12 to 24 months?
I think what great looks like to me is that the teams feel like they have the right people, partners, and capabilities to really drive what we call a RED customer experience. So RED stands for relevant, easy, and distinctive. So how do we ensure from end to end customers are just having a great experience with the brand, that we're giving them the relevant products, the relevant experience. It's really easy to access. We're being adaptable to however and wherever they want to be able to get KFC. We're making it easy for them to do so. But then we're also like bringing our tone and our brand distinctiveness along the way. And I think for us to date, we've been moving so quickly. We've been like focusing on function and function and function, but actually to be able to look at the holistic customer experience from end to end is a really huge opportunity for us. And to me, that's what great looks like, is when we start to infuse everything that we've learned to date and start to work super collaboratively to really drive an end-to-end great customer experience.
I will take the bait on that question about the next 12 to 24 months and now pivot it into your digital marketing investments or your digital marketing bets. As you guys look ahead, what are some of the areas you're going to focus on that you haven't yet had the chance to build pilots against?
Well, I mean, I can't say too much about what big bets we're going to like. I'm not going to tell you this is a pilot that we're doing. Shh, don't tell anyone on this live recording. But what I can say is that we're going to continue to focus on driving digital transaction growth through conversion optimization. And why that's so important is because if we from a customer level, if they're not converting, then there's something that we're not servicing the customer appropriately. There's something that we need to fix. Secondly, from a business level, I mean, 2 points of conversion rate improvement can, have, billions of dollars of impact on our business. And so we're going to continue to drive that. I think CRM and loyalty is a huge opportunity for us. What does that look like for our brand? We have a different business model than a lot of other QSRs because we're about buckets and family sharing and gathering in a lot of our markets. So what does that look like for us? And then performance marketing. Now that we, have all of these channels opened up, how do we start to get a little bit more granular and data driven in terms of driving conversion with our customers and kind of migrating them to these channels and letting them know that they exist and that they can access our brand whenever and however they want.
How closely are increased conversion rate and enhanced capabilities around loyalty closely tied? I imagine very close, right? If these people are already part of your CRM, they're already customers of yours, getting them to buy an extra meal a week or an extra meal a month is probably lower friction than bringing a net new customer in, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think we have to look at customers in segments. We have to start segmenting our customers from, hey, we still need to drive penetration and bring new customers into the brand. But then with the customers we already have brought into the brand, how do we start to migrate them to the next level of their journey with us? So we need to have specific strategies for different customers throughout their journey. And I know, that was a big part of my role at Starbucks, is kind of understanding, okay, once a person orders ahead in the app, how many times do they need to do this for it to be sticky? And then, okay, once they do that, then how do we continue to drive growth with them through personalization? And so, I think that level of sophistication, now that kind of we've launched and we've got the data kind of flowing in, is a huge opportunity.
Kudos on the Starbucks app, by the way. That's a really slick product. There's a lot of coffee ordering. I just had to do the
marketing behind it. I had the easy job.
I tell you, there's a lot of coffee ordering that goes on in our household on that app. So final question, because I'll be cognizant of time. For marketers listening today or leaders listening today that are going through their own innovation, transformation, etc., what's the one piece of advice you would give them based on your last 2 years of experience?
Listen. I think that would be the singular most important piece of advice, is listen. Listen to your teams, listen to their ideas, be open and willing to change and adapt. I think listen to your customers, listen to what your customers want from the brand, and be willing and open to new ideas. I think customers are changing rapidly, and the teams, our employees, and what they want from work, and the enjoyment that they get out of work, and what they're looking for from a culture perspective is constantly changing. And we need to listen and be willing to change and adapt. And so I think yeah, that's the single most important piece of advice that I know that I'm trying to adopt to myself. It's hard because I like to talk and I talk a lot, but I'm trying to slow down and listen.
It makes you the best candidate for a fireside chat, first of all. And congratulations to your organization, to your team, and to yourself. Amazing stuff. I've learned a lot. I hope everyone on the call and viewing was able to pull out some really powerful nuggets as well. So
thanks,
Colin. Thank you, Ashley, so much for your time.
Thanks. I'm really fortunate to work with amazing, talented people, and I just feel honored to be able to represent them.
That's a pretty good send-off.
It's great. Thank you, guys. And Ashley, I love that advice. Listen, so important. So thank you for that. And just a special thanks to our audience for your participation throughout this entire morning in the chat. I love it. You guys have been super engaged, and that's great. So we've made it through our first half of the day, and it's time for lunch. So I don't know about you guys. I've made a ton of notes. I'm excited about the content we have this afternoon as well. But for now, we'll take a 30-minute break, and we'll see you back here at 1 p.m.